Let's say you're that beginner developer again. You've been learning Roblox Studio for about 3 days. You open YouTube and see games like Blox Fruits. You see Rivals, you see Grow Garden, you see all these huge successful games, and you think, I can make that. So you create a new base plate and get to work. On day 1, you're excited. On day 2, you're planning all the features. Then reality hits. You realize you need combat systems, saving systems, animations, UI, inventories, quests, maps, effects, sounds, balancing, and more. And suddenly your project doesn't feel exciting anymore. It feels impossible. This is probably the biggest reason beginners quit. But they aren't failing because they're bad developers. They're failing because they're trying to build a skyscraper before they build a shed. Instead of making a dream game immediately, make something tiny. A sword fighting game, an obby, a simple simulator, something you can actually finish. Because finishing something small teaches you more than failing something big ever will. Let's imagine you avoid that first mistake. You decide to learn properly. So you start watching tutorials. One tutorial becomes 2. 2 becomes 10. 10 becomes 50. And before you know it, you spent more time watching Roblox Studio than actually using Roblox Studio. And here's the problem. Tutorials trick you into thinking you're improving faster than you actually are. Because while you're following along, everything makes sense. You copy the code, it works. You feel like you understand it. But the moment something breaks, or you try to make something alone, you're lost. Not because you didn't learn, but because you never actually trained your brain to think like a developer. You trained it to repeat steps, and repetition doesn't equal understanding. The developers who improve the fastest aren't the ones watching the most tutorials. They're the ones building, breaking things, and fixing them. Tutorials should point you in a direction, not carry you the entire way. Let's say you've made it this far. You've learned scripting. You've built a game. You spent weeks working on it. Finally, you click publish. You're excited. Maybe this game that changes everything. So you check the player count. 0. A few hours later, still 0. A few days later, still 0. And that's where most people quit. Not because the game is bad, but because reality didn't match the expectation. A lot of beginners don't actually want to build games. They just want what comes after the game succeeds. The players, the Robux, the recognition. But every successful Roblox developer had a phase where nobody cared, where their games were completely empty, and the difference between them and everyone else is that they kept going anyway. Here's something most beginners never realize. They don't actually build systems, they stitch together problems. A broken health script? Patch it. UI not working? Replace it. Data not saving? Copy another script. It works for a while until it doesn't, because eventually you hit a wall where copying script stops working, and you don't understand anything underneath it. No idea how data stores actually behave, no idea how replication works, no idea why your game lags or breaks randomly. At that point, you're not developing anymore. You're guessing, and guessing doesn't scale. Real developers slow down early so they don't crash later. Beginners do the opposite. They rush early and get stuck forever later. Most beginners don't fail because they can't make games. They fail because they can't finish them. They start a combat game, then switch to a simulator, then switch to an RPG, then switch to a new idea that feels better. And every time they restart, they reset the progress. No finished progress, no feedback, no improvement loop. Just endless starting. And starting feels productive, but it's actually the easiest part. Finishing is where you actually become a developer. Because finishing forces you to deal with bugs, polish, balance, and the boring parts no one wants to do. That's where skill is built, not in ideas, in completion.